Let's open the Port of East Law Commission meeting on Wednesday, December 18th, 2019. All the commissioners are here except Craig Brandt.
And he won't be here.
We have no public comment, but we do have Miss Grimstad here with Grimstad and Associates for our audit.
Yes,
So I'm gonna turn it over to you.
okay. Well, the most important thing I'm gonna tell you right off is you have a clean opinion. There's no special letters going to the state. This is, which actually a routine year from our perspective. So I will, I can take you through it a little bit in detail or give you the high points, whatever your pleasure.
I'd really like the high points, gentlemen. Otherwise, we'll be here all night.
I agree with Mike.
Thank you.
The highest of the
Okay.
high.
Okay, the highest of the high. You know, from my perspective, it was a pretty quiet year. The MD&A, I think we'll go to page 4. There's a summary comparing this year to last year.
Get there, okay.
Okay, current assets are up 273,000, and capital assets are actually up a little bit as well. Liabilities are down, short-term liabilities are down, and your net position increased by 390,350. There just was not anything unusual. As far as the high points, just pointing out, you overexpended on your general fund and capital outlay for budget purposes. The resolution was acknowledged on page 20, but still, capital assets still exceeded, and it was understood that this wasn't a surprise when I brought it up earlier today. In fact, you pretty much knew the number. Mentioned the 30,000, and you did have sufficient funds. As just a case. It's unfortunate you couldn't get another resolution in there. The capital maintenance fund, I have some comments. It's pretty much similar to the previous year. And I'm sorry Kelly's not feeling well, because I wanted to meet with her and show her exactly what's taking place. So this is an enterprise. We don't need to in our notes disclose about any interfund loans. So that note I think we had previous of an interfund activity, that was pulled. The only comment we make is Oregon minimum standards on the last page. You had an interfund loan the previous year and that increased. And I can show Kelly the mechanics of what happened, because I can see exactly what the intent was, the source of that money. She carried it over, and that's a normal procedure, but it kind of escalated a little bit from previous years, and so we'd like to get that just nipped in the bud and be over with it. But
So will you, when everything gets settled and at the appropriate time, will you guide her through the proper process?
I will, and
To
I'd like to
clean
do
that
it
up
before
for
you
this-
do your budget,
Yes, I
so
would
she can
too.
take care of it.
So we don't have this occur again.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's very straightforward. And it just very straightforward. We can show her exactly
Okay.
where
that's
it
fine.
was last year and how it carried forward again this year.
And how to
So,
fix it so we can,
like to see it get fixed.
yeah, okay. Well, if you give her those details,
Yes,
then we won't have this issue next year.
yes.
Okay.
So hopefully, I understand she'll be back in January and maybe February, or she goes up the coast, or I come down the coast, or we just
We'll
do it by
figure it out.
phone. But we'll figure it out.
We have until April or May before we start doing budget committee.
Yeah, it'd be in April, I think, probably. Late April or first part. Oh, no, it'll probably be in May. It's hard to say, but it's right in there.
Roadie weekend.
But we'll also discuss if there's an opportunity, you can do something within this fiscal year ending June,
With a resolution or something?
with a resolution or something.
Okay, well,
So,
that's a possibility, then that would be
Yeah.
good too.
Yeah, so a combination of both.
Okay.
So that's my highlights.
I've got a question.
Okay,
It came up in a discussion last year when we were budgeting, and that's the unappropriated ending fund balance.
right, yes.
And I'm looking here, I'm on page 20, and the original budget was 94,371, and the final budget was 94, and then it says the actual was 0.
You don't spend your unappropriated. You actually appropriate that for the following year. So there should never be an expenditure there.
Okay, and so then the following year, we're not committed to that amount.
No,
Is there a rule of thumb for an appropriate ending fund balance based on your overall budget amount?
it's dependent upon each municipality. If you generate during the summer a bit of revenue, but there's some, like a city, sometimes doesn't even seem any chunk of money until November when property taxes come in. So they need to have a sufficient amount of unappropriated there as a reserve to carry over and live off of until those property taxes come in.
So it's a financial cushion or a financial...
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. It
Now-
gets you through the lean times before monies start to come in the following year.
Okay, and then, okay, so we're in the lean times and we're consuming some of our unappropriated ending fund balance. And then let's say the revenues come in excess of what we expected and we paid back what we used during the lean and we've even have more. Does, at that point, is the unappropriated ending fund balance greater than what we budgeted, or does it?
It could be, sure.
Because I noticed up
I
here
mean,
we
you're
have
not
the.
gonna balance to the dime on your
Okay.
unappropriated. It's looking
Okay.
into a crystal ball a year ahead of time.
Okay, all right, all right. See, I would have expected it to show. You're showing here on the excess of revenues and expenditures, which is nice to see. We had a variance of 470,839, which means, if I'm interpreting this right, and slap me down if I'm, that our expenditures and our revenues were, are either our expenditures were less or
Well,
revenues was
You can see
greater.
it- Yes, you can see it right here on the page. Your revenues, 1.5, and look to your variance. It was 332 more than you had budgeted for.
Okay.
Go down to expenditures, it's 1.3, and you were under the 1.5 budgeted, so you had an extra 138.
Those are
And so that's what's built up.
those are good looking figures.
Those give you comfort coming into the next year. And
Super. Okay.
when you go to full accrual, which is on page 9, I can see your cash at the end of the year had increased 288,000. So
Okay.
you ended up with more in your bank,
Which is
288
always
than you
nice.
started the year with. So
Okay.
you,
Good.
those are good points.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I'd like to give you something else exciting,
This is pretty darn exciting
and
to
I
me.
think a clean opinion and having more money in the bank than you anticipated or budgeted for.
Okay.
Those are nice steps.
It's the way I like to live. I'm glad to see us doing the same thing.
Any questions?
No, I'd move we approve the audit, the June 30th, 2019 audit. as
I'll second
presented.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, the audit's approved.
Thank you, Signe, for coming out tonight.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
You bet.
Yeah.
Well,
Make sure we
always-
keep up those good numbers. No, we're gonna work on it. That's,
That'll be your job.
I know it, and we're gonna work
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah. Well, we'll get this filed, e-file it probably Friday, if not tomorrow.
Yes.
So, I enjoy coming down here.
Really? Staying this late? That's interesting.
Not this late, no.
Okay.
No. I would have been down here in November, but I understood that there was, that wasn't gonna work out, so.
Give me what, I don't think we had a meeting in November.
No.
I think, yeah,
yeah.
that was part of,
Yeah.
part of it, so.
You've been here by yourself. You might as well be here now by yourself, because we are a bunch.
Well,
Thank you.
yes, well, I'm gonna,
You'll be in touch with,
I will, with Kelly,
Yeah.
and definitely, I wanna go over the entries with her. But specifically, I'm looking ahead now,
Okay,
and,
Sounds good.
yeah.
all right. Have a safe drive home.
Yes, thank you.
yeah, be
Thank
careful.
you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda would be the approval of agenda by consent. Hearing no naysayers, it is approved. Approval of minutes by consent. Any corrections?
None?
None heard. They're approved. Approval of the financials by consent. David, do you have anything to add on the financials?
Just that the checks printed in November were $104,453.89, and that our occupancy for the campground was down 3% and mortgage was down 3%.
Is that compared to this time last year?
Year to date.
Year to date.
And I think it'll, you know, as we go, it'll increase. I think it's gone up since the last time by 1%.
With the addition of those riverfront sites, their occupancy rate has to be greater than what it was before when they were just dry camps.
Oh, that specific area there, yeah.
Okay.
Is that why the 3%?
It's hard to say. I think that percentage will come up as we get closer to spring. I mean,
But did we add overall sites? And so
we added 3 or 4 more sites,
Okay.
so we do.
I didn't understand that. What do you mean you added 3 or 4 sites?
Where there was 12 back there, now we have 16.
Back
along,
there.
along B Road, yeah. We started out with 12 dry sites. Now we have 16 additional.
So last year you figured the occupancy rates on 12 dry sites.
Yeah.
Now you're figuring it on 16.
16.
So that 4 could be enough to make that 3% difference.
With our, sorry, Terry, you had an additional comment.
No, I just wondered.
Yeah, I think so, Terry, that's reasonable. You know, you're just flat saying, we're down 3%, our occupancy in the campground, based on, when you say year to date, same time this year compared to same time last year, period. So that just means that we're just flat 3% down.
Because I think our last meeting it was at 4%, so now it's increased to 3%.
And did we see a decrease in occupancy or future bookings when we increased our rate? Do you have a feeling for that?
Not that I've noticed yet. I wouldn't know how to give you that answer right now. I mean, we could look.
Our rate bump, you guys, what was the rate bump? Did we go up 10%
It
or
was
something?
approximately 10%.
Okay, so our rate
Over-
went up 10% and we're down 3%. Okay.
Overall, it was actually 12% because we increased with the credit card fee. So,
I didn't want to get into the law of diminishing returns.
But those 4, would you say 4 sites more we added?
yeah,
Is that, when did we add those sites?
it would have been
Right after July
after the 4th of July.
Okay, so doesn't that mean that,
So we actually had that whole section closed down for over a month. Where we
Mike's
weren't-
working on the math, I can tell.
no, I'm just trying, yeah, well, it's a hard thing to compare because we had the sites closed down for a month. Because if our sites went up and our occupancy rate at 3% is the same as last year, then it's like,
We may have
or
actually
down
been
from
up.
last year, then, yeah, but we could have had we been open. So this is not a good year to compare it to.
Yeah.
Because if they weren't closed and they were open the whole time and we're down 3%, well then I'd scratch my head and go, well, we have 4 more sites. How could we be down 3% the same as last year? We had less sites to sell, But, so we have a month or so, or two, or whatever it was, that we didn't have any.
Or
we
you do
shut
the
a lot of
math
it down.
differently in the way you figure it, but it's
Yeah,
not worth it.
exactly. No, it's not. I mean, it's not. That's good, 3%.
That's a good number.
When you say 3%, is that occupants or is that, campsites?
Occupied campsites.
Occupied
yes.
It's not tied to the revenue.
Uh-uh.
Okay. Well, I think we said this when we built them other sites and we raised the rates.
Mhm.
We just assume rent less for
I make more
more.
money and let, yeah, sure. It's like anything else.
Well,
Yeah, unless you get into the old famous law of diminishing returns, where you raise your rates, but you get so fewer occupancy that your overall revenue is down, which is not what we're facing.
No, I think we'd have to go a ways before that. We'd know it. We'd have to go. I don't think there's anything wrong with what's going on. It's fine.
we had any feedback from December members?
Not just December members, but the general public. Yeah, we have had a little bit of feedback,
Nothing you'd probably like to share here.
Not really.
Not yet.
But it's just something that we may have to have a discussion about at another meeting.
Are you talking about the forfeiture of the deposit?
Yeah. People are having an issue with that.
Well, we're the only district in the state that does that?
I don't know.
I don't know. I thought we tried to model this after the state parks.
We did model it after a few other campsite reservations policies.
Maybe you need
Well,
to,
let's just get some feedback, and then if we need to look at it.
We're
let's look at
staff, we're still, mulling this over and trying to come up with some ideas.
The correct way or
of
better way.
And it might take just meeting with a couple of you commissioners to talk it over a little bit before we bring it to an actual meeting and discuss it.
it. Dave, let me ask you a question, because I can't get a grasp on how difficult this would be to implement, but one of the things you can do, look, for example, when you're booking an airline ticket, if you want to book a non-refundable airline ticket, they'll sell it to you for $200. But if you want a refundable one, it's going to cost you $300. And there's also hotels do it that same way. If the port had a let's say if you want to book one of these waterfront sites and you want it non-refundable, it'd be the standard rate. If you want to be able to cancel it within a reasonable, then a 30% premium or something like that.
Well, one of the-
Question I'm at, is it difficult, would it be difficult for you to handle if we made it complicated?
It may be.
That's what.
Basically, it's
I'm not-
insurance.
I'm not the one doing reservations, so I'd have to ask Kelly and Amy about that. But the main issue that we're running into is a lot of our tenants are elderly and aging, and some of them are in poor health, and they're wondering what's going to happen to their deposit if they get sick or one of them dies. There's got to be something for them to get a portion of their deposit back, or because they're to stay here now for a long period of time. Basically, you have to pay a month in advance, and then when you get here, pay that month that you're going to be here continually. So if somebody does, get sick or something like that, and we're telling them no refund, period.
Or they can insure their booking. I mean, that's what the world does, is if you want the flexibility of a cancellation, you purchase that right.
Yeah.
But I don't know how complicated that makes the booking desk. That's what I wouldn't, I don't know. But
there's got to be a solution.
Yeah.
And I agree, something should.
yeah.
Can you give us any report on the, we have other work to discuss, I guess.
Not any more questions
we-
on the campground. President Terry.
We've approved the financials, we do have a resolution. Resolution 12-18-19A, prevention of workplace discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. Has anybody had a chance to read that?
What tab is that resolution under?
It's behind tab 5,
Okay,
and there's a lot of literature there.
okay.
Just boilerplate.
Basically.
President Terry, do we have to read this all into the record or just the resolution,
Just the
a
resolution.
motion with the resolution number?
Because the resolution will encompass this.
Okay, I will move that Board of Siuslaw adopt resolution 12-18-19A, a resolution adopting a new prevention of workplace discrimination, harassment, and retaliation policy. That's the motion.
Can I ask a question real quick? This is a new one? Are we replacing one?
We're replacing, yes. That's what Kelly has told me.
Okay.
There's a motion made. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'd second that.
Now, we could have some discussion if there's any more discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Now we get to manager and commissioner reports. David, do you have something?
Well, as everybody can see, our dredge has finally showed up. Boy, it's been a long process. Finally getting it here. We're excited. We're ready for this.
Ready to move some mud?
Oh yeah. Right now we've been mobilizing since Friday when they brought their first trailers in. We have the dredge here, the workboat, majority of the pipe. They're fitting the dredge together right now. We had planned on lifting the actual dredge barge in the water sometime this week, but with this storm coming up, the crane company decided that they didn't want to do the lift, so we'll be lifting Monday, it sounds like. It's going to be the whole mobilization with putting the pipe, welding the pipe together is going to take about 10 days, so.
Just to get ready to dredge.
Yeah, we plan to start dredging the 2nd of January at this point, and that could change too, so.
And there's 30 days of it, you said?
About 20 to 24 days of actually pumping, so. No, we're excited, and it's a big deal for us here, it really is.
Are you gonna prioritize the area you start first so that in case?
The farthest, we're gonna start at the furthest most point.
Down there by ICM in that
Yeah.
low corner there?
Yep.
Okay.
And
That's
so-
probably for the ease of the pipe, isn't it?
And
They
so
can
they'll
it
take,
off.
they'll take the pipe apart as they move is what it sounds like. And so the closer we get to our dredge site, the more mud that will start to pump there. I think they estimated it at 500 cubic yards a day, but as we get closer to the site, that will increase. So it may not even take 20 days, we'll see.
Did you inform them that we keep all mineral rights in case
Yeah.
there's gold or?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dead bodies.
We're,
Huh?
Dead bodies.
Yeah. No, we'll donate that to Coos Bay. The dead bodies can go to
No,
Coos Bay.
we're hoping we have a fairly clean bottom and they don't run into a lot of stuff to slow this down. So,
Well, there should be, because I mean, it's been done
been dredged,
before.
yeah.
yeah, and we have a diver that dives down here all the time and takes out crab pots and whatever else is down there. As far as I know, it's a clean marina, so we
Good.
shouldn't run into any issues.
Well, that all sounds good. Glad to hear we're finally there.
You know?
Now that we're over this hurdle, what's the next hurdle? Have we talked about moving the maintenance shed over?
Yeah, we'll, you know, after we get this project out of the way, then we're gonna start with the demolition of the buildings and moving our maintenance. Right now, we're allowing Coos Bay to, the dredge company to use our facility there to do the pipe welding and store a bunch of their equipment. So they're using it along with us right now.
Good.
We're actually spoiling them. They're not used to having stuff inside, so anything to make it easier on them.
Sure. Have we had any more thoughts on property, Pacific View?
I have not heard anything.
Let me throw something out at you, Terry. Last year, when Craig and I met with Wendy and we were talking about developing that property, she mentioned to me, and I think it's pretty straightforward, that in any one year you can do a minor subdivision where you can create 3 parcels relatively easily. And I asked our realtor of record at Rotary the other day if he thought if we created 3, and it would have to be done with some forethought, but 3 parcels that could be sold separately rather than somebody having to come in and buy and pony up for the full parcel, that we might get more action. And he says typically if you have smaller chunks that you have to sell at lower price, that you might be able to get it to move. What I don't know, because I haven't studied the footprint, is how reasonable that suggestion is. I know we have the utilities right to the property line, so you would essentially create, I would imagine, if we did this, and I'm not suggesting we're doing it, I just wanted to throw out something for us to think about, but it would probably be lots that radiated out from that access point there, because our access point is right at the end of that drive, and I don't think we have a whole lot of street frontage on that parcel. I think essentially all we have is that access point that then goes into that whole 40 acres. Anyway, food for thought.
That being said, I mean, it'd be nothing to extend that on out to a cul-de-sac and have your 3 driveways
Yeah.
off a cul-de-sac.
And we might want to invest in something like that. So I'm just throwing it out.
Well, we talked about it to some degree before. I guess the question I always wonder is, and maybe my expectations are far, far, far more than they should be, but we have a firm on, you know, we've hired, or it's not that we've hired, but we have a real estate company. And I just don't, I mean, I just don't, we're not getting any, why wouldn't they want to suggest something like that to us? Why wouldn't they? I mean, that's their business of selling properties. Hey, Port, you know what? If you cut this up into 3 parcels, I've checked with the city and it's a possibility. You want to have a meeting and talk about that? I mean, we just put the name down. You know, we write the name down, they write our name down, a place for sale out there, and that's it. I mean, that's what it feels like. So we have to come back here and start doing our own, our own process, trying to figure that out.
Unfortunately, that's the way I've always worked. That's the way I've always had to do it, but I agree with you.
Well, it's just that,
No.
you start thinking about, we develop all the ideas and everything, and then what happens? We pay 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, % for us putting the time in here to sell it.
You get no argument
from me. Any company we've hired, they come to us when we ask them to come. Other than that, we're just on the list because we don't have property moving fast. I would like their expertise. I mean, that's what they do for a living.
I think we had that in our proposal, our RFP, didn't we, that they were to,
Boy, I don't know
Be a
about
little
that.
proactive, but I'm down on the particular
No.
company. It's just that You know, Bill, you've brought it up. We have talked to some degree,
Yeah.
not in depth about it, but I would expect our agent of record or our whatever to be sitting out there saying, we've got to do something. It's been sitting there
Did
too
you guys
long.
think of this?
Figure
Did
it
you guys
out.
think- Yeah.
That's
well,
what it feels like to me.
I agree.
Well, I think we've talked about that before, and we were concerned about the shovel ready, but we've determined that the shovel ready will go with the property regardless of what size.
And our real estate agent knows that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I just would like, I mean, it feels like we ought to get a little more guidance, because when that does sell, they're gonna have a pocket full of change.
Let's say it's sold for 600,000, 4%, $24,000. Why don't we take it off the market, pay $24,000 to a planner and tell them, this is what we want. We want 3 parcels, divide it up. It's a simple matter of drawing it out and laying it out.
We wouldn't have to terminate our agent of record while we pursued this. That's just a minor point.
No, we would not.
I mean, in fact, if we began doing it, it's essentially properties anymore are sold by people surfing the internet, investors and everybody else. They're online. They're looking at. They're in Florida looking at property here in Florence, and if it looks like it's the right package, they're gonna knock on our door. They don't walk into the real estate office to speak of. I know some people do, but I bet 80% of it is generated by interest already developed by the interesting presentation online.
Yes, and it has to be presented properly online too. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah.
So you would think if it hasn't worked for however long, we've had that for sale, well, you know,
Ages.
for a long time. We've had more than one different agent on it, and it doesn't feel like any of them are doing anything different than the one before them.
They're listing it.
I mean, they're frustrated because they don't have, and I appreciate that. Then if you're frustrated, then change something. Give us an idea. Change what it looks like. If you want to, if you think subdividing it into 3 lots would be great, well, let's do it. Let's make a different presentation online to the various social media places and advertising places they go to.
Yeah.
Because that's how they sell. You're right. People don't just walk in the door and say, I'm looking for a piece of property. Generally.
invest.
They're
Generally,
researching it for the anybody that's a serious investor is in front of their terminal researching it.
So maybe you ought to just put it on the agenda to come back next time and make a decision if that's what we want to do. You know, to
I'd like
put,
to have that on next month's agenda.
you know, just let's make a decision on let's figure out what it's going to cost to do that.
Okay.
And
We can hire a planner,
sure we can.
Well,
an engineer.
hey, Rob Ward does it all the time.
There
He's
you go.
good at it. And between now and then, I'm going to take a look at the you guys please do the same. I'm going to take a look, go online, look at that footprint, and see if there's a reasonable way to do it. And like Terry was saying, how far in would we have to go with a dry roadway and a cul-de-sac? Would we have to go in 100 feet? You know, and
Yeah.
to create that, it's a relatively easy figure to know what it would take to put the curbs and gutters and 100 foot of paving at the required width. So we would have a pretty good idea of what the upfront dollars were to make the thing more presentable. And as Wendy told me, you can do that every year. You can do a triple petition every year. So literally you can do 3 this year, and you can have 9 parcels the year after that. And I mean, so we need to think about it, because we're certainly not going anywhere right now.
Yeah, it is a good idea to think about, and then maybe have a visionary plan as to what it could be. And you know,
I think what little money we'd have to invest would pay off.
it may
Yeah.
very well, because right now nothing's paying off.
Right.
And we're not talking about a full development. We're just talking about enough of a development to make the minor partitions feasible. That's all I'm.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I'd like to talk about it again.
We'll put it on next month's meeting, Dave. Okay. Bill, any other comments?
Nope. I'm done for the night.
Mike?
No, I'm done too.
David? Meeting closed.
Nice seeing everybody.
Good to see you all.